operas. They do that a lot.
Yes, yes. All right.
All right. Eyre Price, welcome back to the Labyrinth.
It's great to be back. Always a pleasure to be here in the Labyrinth, and so it's great to be back. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, no problem. We've got a lot to catch up on. You have, since your last visit, rolled out 2 more volumes in your series. We had you here when Blues Highway Blues was coming out. Tell us a little bit more about what's been going on with Daniel Erickson, the star of your books.
Daniel Erickson is the central character in my Crossroads series, and so at the end of Blues Highway Blues, he had kind of made the transformation from every man to kind of every angry man. And the second book, Rock Island Rock, found him on the run, but of course you can only run so far, and some elements from his past caught up with him, and he was again put on a rock and roll journey to set things right, and it appeared that had brought him to an even darker conclusion. And then Star Killer Star comes about, and we find that Daniel is on a very specific path. He's been tasked with finding what really happened to Jimi Hendrix, who really killed Jimi Hendrix, and that leads him to a mystery that kind of didn't exist in the other 2 books, where he finds that there are some people maybe that are controlling music as a means of pursuing and furthering their own interests. So Star Killer Star kind of takes Daniel in a different path altogether.
Yeah, it really widens that scope, and it suggests that there's on the end of this entity some sort of crowd control. It's a way of controlling the masses by limiting what they can or cannot hear. Huh?
Yeah, it was my writing partners. Guys, come here. Come here.
Bring them on.
Come here. It is. It dawned on me, and we spoke about this before. We've got financial crises going on. As we speak, there's unspeakable things happening internationally. There's rioting in the streets of America now. We're in the longest shooting war of American history, and I don't see the protest songs. I don't see music reflecting any sort of social consciousness on any of those subjects, and certainly not playing the role that music played, obviously, in the 60s and 70s. I would say even in the 80s with punk. And it dawned on me just how powerful music is. It tends to be dismissed just simply because music is such a part of our lives. There's a line from Blues Highway Blues where someone says that music's playing when they put us in the cradle, and it's still playing when they put us in the grave. And it dawned on me that if you could control music, you might be a long ways towards controlling a society. And what Daniel stumbles over is that there are a number of forces that are seeking to do just that, are seeking to control music as a means of pursuing their own ends. And one group has a very practical political agenda, and there's another fellow there that has a very sinister, dark, and some would say otherworldly or underworldly agenda. But they're both accomplished by manipulating music, and it falls upon our anti-hero Daniel to set these folks straight.
Now, when you were first on the show, one of the reasons I liked the book was that it introduces some of these elements that you just described, some of this supernatural notion to the world, and it's very much blended in. And you've discussed in the past how that just sort of fits the way that you see the characters in the book. It's definitely there. Now, as the novels go wider in scope and they continue because I believe there's going to be a fourth volume after this.
Right. There'll be a fourth one coming soon.
Yeah, I'm very curious about at what point in your process was there a spark that just said, hey, there's a bigger picture, a bigger conspiracy here? How do you work through that creatively, and how did you do it? Because I'm very curious. I like where it went because some of those hints I feel were already in the very first book, but it's very gradual in the way in which we arrive in Starscale Star.
I think the development was kind of organic, and I think that I, as a writer, have really been doing what Daniel does as a character, which is just following the music, and the clues and the elements are all there, and so it wasn't that far a stretch. And you and I have spoken previously about what is considered supernatural, and I don't necessarily think that elements that are dismissed as supernatural are supernatural. They're just simply elements of the world, of the universe that we don't understand. As I've said before, people weren't suffocating before J.B. Priestley discovered oxygen. It just we understood what oxygen was all about. And guest star.
Hi. we need an introduction for the viewers. We have, I'm sure, a lot of people who love dogs. Who is that?
This is my writing partner, Bandit. Say hi. This is Bandit.
Hi.
Her sister Timber is biting her as we speak. So yeah, let me go. We live in a time where we dismiss things as being supernatural, but at the same time, as Mr. Audubon from Blues Highway Blues would point out, the churches are filled on Sunday, and certainly there's elements of supernatural in that. I would argue that the supernatural is all around us in an everyday occurrence. And then particularly when you get to music, to my mind, music is something very, very special, and it taps in on an energy level like really nothing else does. And so I think there's just a natural, supernatural. I don't want to use that word, but I think it taps into energies that we don't understand.
That we don't understand. Well, I would say, music for me, it's also really important as a writer in my process.
With your 13 cities.
In 13 Secret Cities, and it's something that if we just look at the anthropology of the species of humans, it's been there with us really early on as we become a culture or a species that has culture. And so we know that a lot of those early civilizations used it as something that was religious, mystical, metaphysical, etc. And I believe, when you look at an EDM show that lasts a weekend and people are there 72 hours by the thousands, or you see the Rolling Stones pull people together, or you go to a really tiny show on the Lower East Side for a punk band, those are ritualistic, but also mysterious in the sense that people really get something out of it, and they can't even explain what it is, but they can tell you how much they love that show, how much it meant to them. And so I have the same questions about it as you, in the sense that I put that into my books because I also find it really interesting and part of who we are.
Yeah, and I think there are some. I've been struck by some videos. There's a U2 concert. I want to say it's from Slane Castle. I'm not certain, but the crowd is just ridiculously large, and obviously that's what is happening. There's something shamanistic, going on there, and you go back and they now have concluded. Scientists think now that Stonehenge was originally just a large drum circle. And so you see that tradition moving forward. If you've heard any of Springsteen's latest shows from this tour, they become very, they're almost like a revival meeting. And so and I mean religion itself. Even if we want to get into, you know, what's not supernatural, but Christianity has a huge musical tradition, um, in a way. And we just came back from my son and I just came back from Charleston, South Carolina. And we listened to a lot of different music, and you listen to some of that gospel music, and it's just whatever. Whatever your personal religious feelings may be, the music is undeniably powerful. And so I think you're absolutely right, and I think people tap into that. You know, even just on an individual basis, you think of the moments of your life are really tied together by music, and that's another theme that I discussed in Blues Highway Blues. You have great books in your life, you have great movies in your life, but there are songs that you can hear, and you're instantly back to that place. You instantly feel the way you did at that moment, that that first love, that first breakup, whatever it is. Music just has a magical quality to it that I don't think.
They're real time machines.
Yeah.
That's an actual time machine right there.
And I mean, you know, we could go over books and we can go over movies that meant something to you, but they don't have that capacity to instantly transport you. They don't. I can tell you these are some of my favorite books and these are some of my favorite movies, but they don't capture you like a song does. I've yet to meet someone that doesn't have a song that, whether they'll admit it or not, is not their theme song, is not their life capsulized down into 3.5 minutes. And so I think that's very important, and kind of drawing it back to your question, that's where Daniel comes from. He's dealing in something mystical and magical and very, very primordial in dealing with music and finding music where it leads him.
I'm very curious about your process, because there are some authors who, over the years, describe how they use music in their actual writing, and we're going to get a little technical and nerdy here, everybody. So please stick with us, because I really love this stuff. But in the first draft, do you listen to music? In the editing, do you listen to music? In the proofreading, do you listen to music? They're probably yes or no questions, but if so, can you just describe a little bit about each one of the phases? Because I find it endlessly fascinating. I am definitely one of those writers who uses it when I work, but not everybody does. And so I think you're a perfect person to ask, because music is baked into all your work.
Yeah, I'm probably, and I drive my writer friends crazy, because I talk to other writers who have big whiteboards with everything plotted out and talk about structure, and it doesn't work that way for me. And everything that I write comes to me more or less in one, usually in a dream, but it usually all comes to me at once. And when it does, it kind of comes to me as a movie, and that comes with a soundtrack. And so I don't necessarily sit down and say, oh, I'm going to listen to this or I'm going to listen to that. The book that I'm writing comes to me all at once, and it brings with it the music. So I just finished a manuscript that's in my agent's hands now, and the theme to that was the Black Keys. Not my favorite group. I like them, not my favorite group, but that was what that book demanded. Blues Highway Blues was all blues, and I certainly have been a fan of the blues, but that book just necessitated 24 hours of the blues. Rock on Rock was a lot of 70s rock, oddly enough, and a lot of 70s rock and a lot of kind of Philly soul, which came out of nowhere, but there was a lot of Philly soul in there too. I don't know why, but yeah, I think it goes back to music's power to motivate you to do things. And I think writing is a perfect example of that, where um, you can get lost in the song, and you can focus in the song, and the song just transports you uh, somewhere. Little 20 years from now, Little Black Submarine will take me back to this summer and finishing that manuscript.
No,
Um,
well, yeah, well, I think that right there is that magic. The if we were to think about, for me, so I cannot draw the exact parallel to you because we're different people. But if you were to look at the books I write, if you saw how I completed it, let's imagine that I've completed it by walking through a forest. The soundtrack that was put together as I was working through it, it would be like a little set of footprints. You could actually kind of see more or less a path cutting through the woods that even to me is really mysterious. What you described actually resonated because some of it sounds familiar to me. I usually know in my novels a couple of major strokes, I call them, like brush strokes, and that just sort of tell me what will happen. But the way in which I get there obviously is very internal, and I'm not aware of myself when I'm in there. I'm just in a state of flow. But the music is very hard for me to describe, and so that's why I publish my playlist after I'm done, because
right.
in the you can kind of see what happened, and I this has actually happened. I'll work through a scene or through a chapter, and sometimes there's some image that's already there in my head, but I'm trying to bring it out. Sometimes a particular song will just kind of make that sharper, and I don't have any way to explain it, but I do, for the people who really kind of geek out on that stuff, I publish, for example, 13 Secret Cities. There's a playlist for each of the parts, which are thematic too. There's colors and different themes that are in each one. But for all of them, you can see kind of what went down with the writing of that. And I love hearing from other writers how they do that because it's super cool. I know Stephen King has talked a little bit in the past about stuff he used to listen to while he was writing, but I'm glad you do that, and it seems like there's discovery in that for you. Can you talk a little bit about sort of new insights you have into your process since you first visited the Labyrinth?
Yeah, I think for me, being published um, was something that I was completely unprepared for. And there are shelves and shelves. There's an entire industry of writing for writers, and how to write, and obviously for me, because I have that crazy thing with the dreams going on, I've never really indulged in that. But there's nothing to prepare you for what happens once you kind of step over that line and become published. So it's odd because you speak to writers, and we spend years writing and writing and writing all by ourselves, confident that someday it's gonna see the light of day. But then when it happens, at least for me, my personal experience is that it totally took me by surprise, and I wasn't prepared for it. And so I almost had to learn how to rewrite. I almost had to learn how to write all over again. I think what people don't understand is once you've become published, once you've taken that step forward, what used to be good enough is now just like barely a rough draft.
Hmm.
The amount of polishing, the amount of work that goes into what I previously would have considered a finished manuscript, and what now is a manuscript that I turn into an editor, is night and day. And so that changed for me. The idea that people that I was not related to were actually going to read my stuff was an entirely new concept. And the fact that I was going to positively impact people was new and different to deal with. At the same time, there are people out there for whatever reasons um, that don't want to write their own stuff, but want to go after other people. And you and I had talked about this privately, that after Sandy Hook, there was, I'm hoping, a well-meaning person uh, who took it upon herself to go after and criticize some books that she thought were unnecessarily violent. And my books are certainly violent. Whether they're unnecessarily violent, I don't know, but they're certainly violent. And that resonated with me. Not just the criticisms, but my role in society, bringing forth something that that may or may not have a certain potential. And ultimately, what I came up to is that you just got to write. There are so many right now. Everybody's arguing and fighting over, Amazon and Hatchet, and um, there's all these other considerations. Once you step across, there's people who love you, and there's people who hate you, and there's 1,000 things. And basically, what I've learned is you have to put all of that behind and just write. And to kind of continue our conversation, when it's like a wild kingdom here in my house. um, when you talk about the music that impacts you, it's not necessarily the most technically proficient musicians or the perfect voice. It's those people that bring passion to the music. And so that's where I'm at now. As a writer, that's kind of the step that I've come through. I think for a little while I was thinking too much about the writing process, and now I just write. When I wrote Blues Highway Blues, my son and I went down to the Mississippi Delta. We were on Highway 61, which is the Blues Highway, and it's the longest straightaway in the United States. It's an unbelievable highway. And it dawned on me what it must have been like to be a man of color walking with a guitar case down this road. And the dangers that you face from law enforcement at that time, from racists. If you got to the next juke joint, the owner was gonna cheat you. There was gonna be a woman that was gonna try and roll you, and her husband was gonna shoot you, and there was no guarantee of anything beyond that. I think one of the things that's happened with music is that music today is for tomorrow. People participate in music thinking, well, I'm going to pick up a guitar, and tomorrow I'm going to make a lot of money, and tomorrow I'm going to have this big house. And these old blues guys were just playing for today because that's all they had. There couldn't have been any reason to expect that you were going to wake up and see tomorrow. So all you had was today, and you played today music, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. There was a time, certainly, you get so fixed on the process of writing and finding an agent, finding a publisher, that it is all tomorrow work. And I'm very fortunate to be in a place now where I just write. I write today music. I write with the idea that if it's all said and done, if I walk away now, or I'm taken away now, would this work? Would it be is it everything that I got? And that for me has meant the world to me. Is that transition. So now I just sit down and I don't listen to critics, and I don't consider Stephen King or his advice or technical advice. I got a story to tell, and I just try to make it. I just try to make it explode or cry. I just really want my readers to feel something.
Well, and I think that for you or I, but I think since we're talking about you, that to hold on to that, I think will always be super important because your readership continues to expand. More people know about your work. Your books are coming out. It's a full series, and then there's going to be more stuff, as you told me before. You've got other books coming out, and so retaining that drive and that feeling that you're basically just writing and not really thinking about all of these other factors is just key. I would put myself in the same position. I'm very happy with how 13 Secret Cities is performing. The Pablo Green books, which I do under that name, those are moving out, and lots of wonderful things are happening, meaning there's some sales and then there's interactions with the readers, things I never thought were possible. They changed everything. But I try to tell myself, keep writing this way, where right now you don't have a gazillion eyes on you. In 20 years or 30 years, if as you're doing this, just remember to keep that focus, because I think that makes for better books. They're more vulnerable kinds of writing, but then they're also truer. So those books are the ones I like to read personally.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, dealing with the 13 Secret Cities, which people haven't picked up, they really need to because it's something special. I'm thrilled that the success has come your way. It's well deserved, but it's clear in reading it that it was written without those expectations.
Mhm.
They are passionate works, and it shows. And that's I think in that respect we're from that same brotherhood. I just want to. I would love to expand my readership. I certainly would love to turn some corners. I'm not adverse to making a bigger, better living. Um, but that's not going to come from me thinking about it. And what I want to do right now is just make.
More books.
And it's not that. I mean, I really want my readers to come away, because it dawns on me that all the song takes is 3.5 minutes out of your life. All the movie takes is 2 hours out of your life. But with a book, you're asking for a substantial commitment of time from someone. And time is just a measure of life. So you're asking someone for part of their life, and if I feel anything with regard to readers and an obligation to readers, it's to satisfy that. And so I'm writing now, and I've always tried, but I'm fully involved now in just coming to the keyboard, just trying to make things explode for them, or trying to connect on a very emotional level. I'm not a particularly intellectual person, and I'm not a particularly intellectual writer, and I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm a very passionate person and a very passionate writer. I'm much more comfortable uh, working from that aspect. And so, to me, the passion is absolutely positively everything, and that's why. Um, as I said, like, I don't plan novels. I don't. Uh, I'm not concerned with what Stephen King thinks about how to write, or I think I have an obligation uh, to my readers to justify that time, and I think I have an obligation. As I said, I think I've snatched this story out of the ether somehow, and I think I have an obligation to it, because it's crazy, right? Like, I'm sitting here, and something comes to me, and not only does something come to me, but I'm able right now to make a living, not the living that, uh, but I'm able to do that. That's what I do. I mean, sometimes late at night, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, you write stories for a living. I mean, how great is that? And and so I feel a responsibility to the story, to bring as much passion to it, to tell it as passionately as I can.
So Killer Stars out now. You guys watching the show, and if you listen to this on the audio portion, you can get that on Amazon in paperback. You've got the Kindle, then all the previous books in your catalog are available. We talked a little bit about it. Well, first of all, let me back up, everybody. We actually did a full show, Eyre and I, about a week ago, but we lost half of the video. And thank you, Google. But now we're redoing this. And and during that show, we talked about some of the best ways to talk to Eyre in case you have questions about the novel or you just want to get more involved with your work. So Facebook, I just want to plug you and say I really like your posts on Facebook. They're very heartfelt and they're really interesting updates. And people can find you there, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I again, like with Facebook, I try to tell a story, and I try to. It's been an interesting year for me personally, and I've tried to make a narrative out of all of that, and And so yeah, right now I'm in kind of a personal transition, and so my webpage has been neglected. I'm not a particularly a good person with regard to the webpage, although I promise you that I promise everyone that in the fall I'll be back bigger and better than ever, and we'll move from there. I think managing a webpage is something that most people don't anticipate when they contemplate writing a novel. But the webpage will be up this fall, but for the time being, if you stop by Facebook, it's Eyre Price, and if you send me a request, I'm a friendly guy, and I'll friend you. I'm on Twitter at Eyre.Price. I don't understand Twitter, so I can't say that. I can't say that I use it to maximum. And again, I find it hard to create a narrative on Twitter. It seems to me like a universe of just a lot of people shouting. But Facebook is a place to reach me right now, and as I said, in the fall, I've got big plans for a website and moving forward and really interacting and growing my readership. So that's where we're at. New and interesting times.
And you guys, now that I've had 2 times to do the show and that we're here, there's a couple of really exciting things that we're putting together. Are there 2 cats back there?
There are
That's
2
amazing.
cats back there, and there are 2 dogs just out of view. Hang on one second. Excuse me for this. Guys, come on. That's something that Stephen King doesn't prepare you for, right? How to deal with dogs in the interview, and they're back, of course.
No worries. So here's what we've got coming up. We are in talks right now to get Rob Povey back on the show. He's been on the show many times in the audio portion. We're going to convince him to do a little chat like this one with us on, could be a topic, could be about books, could be about music. So he will be coming back because you guys are friends. So
we are. I have one of the great benefits that you don't think of when you start down this path is that you get to be friends with other writers, and it is just an incredible community. And hang on, excuse me one second. Come on, guys. Oh, come on. Let's go. My apologies for that. You get to be part of this incredible community that, as you know better than anybody, that includes just some really great people. At the top of them is a writer named Robert Povey. If anyone has not read Bloodman, they should, because I argue that it is infinitely scarier than anything that Stephen King has written. So you need to check out Bloodman or Mannheim Rex. Rob is a great guy, and I will deliver him. I will deliver him to the Labyrinth, and we'll have a conversation on that.
So that's one little preview of what's to come, and then we talked about a Tables Turned episode. Yes. So tell us a little bit about that. What your idea was?
Well, my idea was you have created something truly special with your 13 secret cities. And I'm just going to take advantage of you because I don't have my own labyrinth set up, and I would love to flip the tables on you and do an episode of the Labyrinth where we discuss. We talked about the first 2 books, and then we would later on in the fall, once books 3 and 4 have dropped, we would do the second half, and I'm very much looking forward to that.
So you heard it here first, everybody. That show will be coming up, and we'll give you all the full details, the dates. I'm really looking forward to that. On my end, if you're familiar with me, you know how to find the book, which is on Amazon.com and the Kindle store. If you're new to my works, it is a YA fantasy book. It's scary, political, etc., but it's on the Kindle for the year until November when the paperback is out.
Yeah, and I mean, you're the man who wrote it, but I would hesitate to classify it as YA. Um,
Yeah, well, let's talk about that for a minute. Sure.
well, first off, I'm notorious for hating genres. I absolutely, I don't think they have any particular meaning, or they shouldn't. I think our objective as writers is to capture life, and life doesn't have genres. So, but that's how you sell stuff, right? That's how you market stuff. I just would hesitate to there are teen characters, but I wouldn't say that it's YA and that's the projected readership. I would think that I would strongly suggest that adults out there read it. It's certainly engaging and appropriate for that audience, but I don't think that's necessarily a limit on the material. I think it kind of does it a disservice to say, oh, it's YA. It's
That's
just
very kind of you.
no, but I think you know what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
there are YA books out there that cater to that genre and cater to those limitations, and they are very specifically crafted for a certain age group. I don't think that's the case with Secret Cities.
No,
Uh,
the book is not more challenging of a reader, but I definitely I'm not a fan of YA books that are that talk down to their readers, as in here's the scope and here's like this YA bracket. And so I'm glad you pointed this out, because I'm hoping these questions come up, and when you interview me, there are elements in that book that again ask more of people to get more involved and to sort of really see it as a novel, just a narrative. And so I'm glad you picked up on that. But it does make it hard to talk about what slot does it fit in. And you guys, I have an advantage right now because it's still early in my career. But yeah, granted, it is definitely just a label, and I'm glad you agree that it's limiting, because I believe the ideas in the novel are a little bit bigger than a label.
right, and I think it's just a novel. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
I always have a problem when people say, well, what do you write? And I've been trained to say, oh, I write thrillers, but
me too.
what does that mean really? Um, you know, so I think particularly with YA, you have people who do cater to that, and I think there's some readers out there that aren't looking to stretch their horizons and only want to read um, certain things, and so I guess for them that's great. But I mean, for 13 Secret Cities, it's it would be like saying To Kill a Mockingbird is YA, and it certainly deals with adolescent issues. Catcher in the Rye is certainly a YA book, but it goes way beyond that, and I think 13 Secret Cities does the same thing. I would highly recommend it to my fellow middle-aged readers out there and beyond, because um, there are some real issues out there, and I think to a certain degree YA is a limitation designed to um, I think sometimes we underestimate um, what adolescents can do, and we don't necessarily do them any service by not challenging them, by giving them material that's within their that is within their grasp, right? Like, you go to the gym to lift more than you can so that you become stronger, because that's how you become stronger.
Hmm.
You read to deal with things that are outside of your comfort zone, because that's how you grow. And so I think to that extent, YA has connotations that there are no sparkly vampires, and it's a serious book, and it's a book for teens, and it's a book for 20-somethings, and it's a book for crotchety old men like me.
Well, I appreciate that. The last thing I'll say about it is, these are the books I know how to write, and we'll discuss that in the next episode. But I there are lots of things that I have a lot of passion for in those books, and they include young people, but it also includes difficult themes like death and politics and even monsters. And so I have, lots of stuff to sort of work through, and that's what my book is meant to do, is to tell a story that captures life or something about life. So we've got a date in the future. I want to thank you for being here,
I guess
Eyre.
we got 3 with Poby. So
Yeah.
I will be a frequent visitor to Labyrinth, and I'm
We're
very.
gonna round it out, yeah. And if you guys ever want to just make it of a more regular thing, we can totally do that. We can even take reader questions because we've done that for Rob on previous shows. Reader sent in some questions, I believe, for him. So we can mess around with it now that we have Google on our side. Now that they let us keep our half of the video.
That'd be great. Poby and I are a sitcom, so I promise everyone watching that'll be an episode to tune in for.
Looking forward to it. Eyre, thanks so much, and we'll see you in just a few weeks.
It is always a pleasure. I'll be in contact, and we'll set up those other dates. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks.